Hi, Rebecca. Welcome to the NTM Growth Marketing Podcast. It's an honor to be speaking with you today.
Hi, thanks so much for having me. I'm excited to talk about marketing.
So let's start off, and I'd love to hear from you a little bit more about what exactly is NextFab and what is your role at the organization.
Sure. So NextFab is a collaborative group of membership-based makerspaces. So we're actually a physical location where folks can come in, and we kind of operate like a gym. So folks can come in and use things like our wood shop, 3D printing, laser cutting, metal shop, jewelry making. So we provide the tools and resources you might not be able to get every day outside of schools, and actually allow people to come in and make. So we have people that are more in the tech sphere. So they are, you'll see a robot just roll by every once in a while. And you also have artists and folks that make handmade products that they then sell. You have custom fabricators. So you have a lot of different folks coming through our physical locations to just make and create. And as my role is, I'm the director of marketing at NextFab. So what that kind of means is I am looking for makers all over Philadelphia, which is where we're located, that are interested in expanding their practice, finding a more effective way to make. Sometimes it's all about safety, so they need somewhere that has the fume hoods and all those kind of things. So my job is to work on their website, our social media, our advertising, our story to get some of those members in and be part of our community at NextFab.
Were you at the organization during COVID over the last couple of years?
Yep, I sure was. So I've been at NextFab for about 3 years. So it means
at the start.
Yep, so it was right at the start. So I worked on location for the first, year of me working at NextFab, and then hearing the woodworking tools in the background, working in our staff office, and then COVID hit. As a physical space, it was pretty tough because we want maker space, with COVID, it's not something you want. But we were able to, not to overuse this word, pivot and look at other sources of digital programming, digital education, kind of figure out how we could actually, rather than bring them into our spaces, be in their spaces.
Mm-hmm. Are you still pursuing some of the online education, or are you 100% your in-person is where your revenue comes from?
Yeah, our revenue is really the memberships and the people coming into the space. We did find a really great untapped market with some of our digital programming. So when you're a maker and you're in art school or whatnot, they don't teach you how to be profitable, which I know sounds a little crazy, but so we found a really great gap where we could use some of our digital programming. So we do webinars on things from marketing and business to how do I make a better product that's not going to cost an arm and a leg to make. And we also we ended up launching a new program where we actually do a full digital conference every year. So it launched that, which we started last year and hoping to make an annual thing. So we did find an untapped market that it was interesting with some of the digital programming.
So this conference is going to happen again in 2023. You already did it in 2022.
Yep. So it's called Tools of the Trades. So it's similar to maybe what you might see as a business or marketing conference. But again, we found that these webinars, which were hour-long webinars, were really successful. What if we put those on steroids and start charging for tickets and bring in some really great speakers? So it's a 3-day event in March, 3 days of digital programming. And for those local to Philly or those that want to travel, we do an in-person happy hour at the end of the week. Because makers, they don't always like to talk to each other when we make them. But this covers, again, some of those topics that how to be profitable, taxes, copyright, those kind of things that people can't find. And then we use that, basically those emails, we all know about the emails, getting those emails and pivot that into bringing people into our spaces to turn into membership.
I want to go back to COVID, as I think it's just a very interesting business model that you were very tied up in in-person stuff. You made a big pivot. Can you share anything else you did that was unique and different for your membership community during COVID to ensure you kept them engaged with your brand?
Sure. So I don't know if you remember at the beginning of COVID, but there's a shortage of masks, and we had all this fabrication equipment. So we were able to think of designs, so we actually used we closed the space down, but left them open for a couple of people to actually make masks and face shields. Another problem we ran into, we noticed was people, if you didn't have the machines like 3D printers or like laser cutters, you can't really make masks. So we designed an origami mask that people could print and cut at home. So we launched a video on how to do that. That was really well received. And the other thing we did is we actually offered our members like, hey, we're doing this, but like, if you stick with us, like we'll actually give you so much like credit, so many like 3 months as we go through this. And they, you know, I think combined with like the mask making, they saw that on our social media. I think people really wanted to be part of our community still and support that. So that helped a lot. We definitely had lost some folks, which makes sense. Some people use that time to buy their own equipment or perhaps moved. But a lot of folks, stuck with us and saw like those efforts we were doing and wanted to support our makerspace, which is great to see.
Tell me a little bit about how you stay connected to your community. Is this something where you're, on the floor in the shop, just like BSing with people? Is it social listening? Is it Google Trends you're analyzing? Like, how are you staying connected to these individuals?
Yeah, all the above, honestly. I go into our physical locations. I live nearby. So that's like always a great thing that a lot of people get to do. Our customers are there at day in and day out. It's membership, it's subscription based. So I get to interact with a lot of those folks. We also do have our own custom hashtag #NextFabMade. So like we're able to follow people that way. People love being part of that online community. And then I follow the trends of the making. I follow the trends of the city. But it's all about going on site and like interacting and having those conversations. That's, you can look at all the data in the world, but without those one-on-one conversations, I wouldn't be able to make decisions that we do. But that's the main part.
So in your one-on-one conversations, I'd love for you to describe, I'm going to use marketing terms. So your customer avatar, what's going on in this individual's life that inspires them to join NextFab? Sure.
Yeah. So a lot of what happens is folks will see like on our social media, they'll see like people making stuff, which it just looks cool. Like there's no like arguing with that. And then the conversations, they're really looking for the next step. They're trying to invest in their business and their individual making journey. We have a lot of professional makers that come through that I said went to art school. They know how to make the products. That's their expertise. But they kind of run into like, wait, I need an LLC. Like, what do you mean I have to like ship you something? I don't know how to ship. Like you start getting to this. So we have some of those features at NextFab. We offer shipping or receiving. We offer like office hours where they can book virtual consultations with like marketing experts. So they see that gap in their business and then they come on site and they're like, wait, instead of hand cutting things, I can actually use our laser cutter and like carve it out in 5 seconds versus 5 hours. So they kind of come in and tour and see that and then make it make sense to themselves.
So their customer journey flow tends to be they see you on social and they see how cool it looks. They come in for a tour to check out the facility. And if it resonates with them, they decide to join the membership community.
Yeah, exactly. So it's, they come in, they might be interested in like a class. They might see like someone on social media, the old saying, it takes 7 points of, noticing a brand or business in order to like make that commitment. So they see like, hey, that's cool. That's me. That could be me, or I want that to be me. Our journey, sometimes it takes a year for someone to, from the first point of seeing it. They're like, let me work my way up to that like professional space. But yeah, they come in, they see us, they interact. They may be on our email, they might come to an event, then they may take a tour, then they join. From there, we want to keep them engaged and have them be a long-term member. Again, it's kind of like a gym. We need them to come in and work out their making muscles.
What are some other things you're doing? I'm using another marketing term, top of funnel, to just create that brand awareness in the Philadelphia area. I'm hearing social events, advertising. Is there anything else that you're using for that top of funnel awareness?
Sure. Yeah. So I mean, as with a lot of businesses, word of mouth and referral is always really big for us. Because people make physical products, sometimes they see that in the real world. So that's huge for us. Like those referrals is like when you see someone making things like that. We're big on Google Ads. I
can see that being great for your company.
Totally. Sometimes you end up running into things like, as with everyone, you're like keywords, you're like, no, I meant this, but you're seeing it as this. So you kind of run into that sometimes, as with everyone. But yeah, because we have so many unique features, we get a little lucky on Google Ads where we like don't have to bid too much on them. So those are big for us. And then SEO is also, and organic traffic is also huge. Again, we can put unique stories, we can drive people. We run a lot of events, in-person events, which was a bummer when COVID happened, obviously. But you see our spaces, which look really cool, and that helps tells our story. And then, like I mentioned, social media and social media ads. One part is like the Google Ads kind of tells like, here's the need you have. So I need a word working tool. I need to make this, fabricate this. And then you have the social media, which is our story and our narratives, where they see the cool stuff happening and can resonate with it. That is also huge for us, is our member stories.
So why is storytelling an important part of marketing?
It's such an essential part. I know we have content out the wazoo. Like we're lucky. I've worked for like transmission auto repair in the past. Then I came to NextFab and I was like, this is great. There's like a million stories I could tell. So we tell those really cool, unique stories because people are going to resonate with them. People have wised up a little bit. Like not all the marketing tactics we've used in the past are going to work. So they need that really authentic experience, which is where storytelling comes in, because it's super authentic. It's other humans. It's sometimes directly relating, or they know someone that story resonates with them. And it helps solidify the trust. I think that's the other big part of it, is we want people to trust us. And by bringing in our like customers and their stories, that's really going to build that trust with our brand, with our customers.
Is there one story you've been able to tell about a customer that just lights you up the most, that really you remember very distinctly?
Yeah, I mean, it's like trying to pick your favorite kid. There's one that, I mean, it's always cool to see the like, they start with nothing and now they're like, ruling the world. One, I actually was on site today and I saw him, but the one that I love telling is someone had come into our location. They're like a woodworker. They're like, oh, I would love to like learn to make drums. Fast forward, it's just him. Fast forward 3 years, he's in our newest location. He has rentable studio space. He has employees, and he's like, that's his full-time job, is he's building drums for like the drummer of like some of the most well-known bands around here in the world. He's making these custom drums, and he just like loves doing it, and he has his like family. He's like, I'm able to support my family this way. I'm able to like, build a future for myself, like literally and figuratively, and employ other people to do that. And I came in here looking to build a drum set, and now that's all I do day in and day out. And it's always funny to see him because he's always sprinting from shop to shop because he has no time, because he's got all these custom orders just like rolling in. He is back ordered. I asked him to be part of our like a holiday campaign every year, and he's like, ask me next year. I'm still like a year behind. So it's cool to see those kind of stories of people that can do it full time. They don't want to be stuck in a cubicle. They don't want to do these like other jobs they want to make. So that one's always so cool to tell. He's the nicest guy on top of that.
So when we were talking about some of the marketing mediums you're using, the Google ads, the Instagram stories, those are obviously rising and everyone is trying to figure out how to use those. Is there any medium that you've deployed that you were very shocked it brought in results? I don't know, you did a radio ad, you put up, I talked to the marketing department of Tennessee Titans, and they did a mural on a barn in rural Tennessee, which they're really happy with the results. Is there anything you've done that might be out of the ordinary as a marketing medium?
This isn't so much like out of the marketing medium. When you become a new member, you get a t-shirt. I think it's it's one of those, you're so mad it works. Like, cause you spend all this money on ads and all this like brainstorming and other things, but they get t-shirts that say just like NextFab. They're fine, they're cool. Like, but you see them everywhere now. Everyone's always wearing these t-shirts. They're always super excited to get them. It's not trackable by any means, but like, I guarantee you that like is one of the reasons for our referral marketing being so big as it is now, and our branding.
It's like when you get a really expensive gift for a toddler, and then they just play with the box.
It is exactly like when the cat, like it's the box, you buy all the cat toys. Yeah, it's exactly the same thing. And I'm like, you can't monetize it, you can't track it, you can't like do anything except accept it.
So on the topic of tracking and results with your marketing efforts, how do you as an organization measure success in marketing?
Sure. Yeah. So our main, as I mentioned before, the funnel is like awareness to come into for a tour to become a member. So it's when you start those memberships, that's the conversion. That's one of our main avenues of revenue. And so looking at from a marketing perspective, we'll like really go granular. We'll look at like number of impressions, like how many do we get this month? How many can we how can we increase those impressions, those clicks, that engagement, and where what other sources can we come from? But the conversions at the memberships, that's where we are looking, and and as well as the customer lifetime value, that's another huge number. We're subscription based, we're membership based, so we're looking at those kind of numbers. To see how long are they staying, what's the average, how do we increase that? We're at the point where we're trying to be how can we increase it 1 month? How can we increase that 3 months rather than bringing in a new customer? How do we do that? Setting those smaller goals.
You did talk a little bit about how you give back to your members when they're already in the paying subscription model. What are some tactics that you would recommend to anyone else who has a membership community to keep them engaged? I know they're not a number in Excel spreadsheet, but how do you extend that lifetime value to your membership community?
Yeah, it's all about the awareness and the touch points, I think, is the biggest thing. We want to keep them aware of what's happening in the community, the possibilities of being, in that community. I would suggest finding those what month is it? That's what we're doing right now. What month are we seeing drop off? What are the trends? Are there any seasonalities with this? And then 1 month or 1 week or whatever it is, find that touch point and then hit them with some content of hey, did you know we have a class coming up? I know, we gather customer information when they first come in. We're saw you're interested in this woodworking class, and because we track you, we know you haven't taken it yet. Not so creepy, but finding those touch points and those timetables of where are they falling off, look at it year to year, look at it month to month, quarter to quarter, and then hit them sometime before. You don't want to be too late, you don't want to be too early, so it is definitely something you have to kind of track. That could be through email. We'll DM our customers a lot. We're did you see this? Our makers are not checking their email. Our customers are not. They're in the shops. They're working. So we'll DM them a lot, or we'll put up posters or shoot them a text. Be did you know this is happening? So it's all about awareness. A lot of time our customers might drop off. They've run out of projects. They've run out of things they want to work on. They just need to be politely told what they might want to work on.
So kind of on that topic of that's kind of a win back campaign for people who are already members, just to get them engaged. Do you ever do win back campaigns for people who dropped off with their membership to try to bring them back?
We have before. I wouldn't call this maybe a challenge or a loss or anything. We've done it, in order to cancel, you do have to shoot us an email, say I'm moving, or maybe just want to move on. We have before been that's fine. Here's 10% off your next month if you stayed. We found that was too late, which is why I was saying the timing is so important. Even though they are telling us I no longer, for whatever reason, want to continue on, they've made the decision already. They it's tough to send that email. So we try to do a 10% offer of their next month of membership. Like I said, that was unsuccessful because the decision's already been made. So we've tried it before. Like I said, for us, it's the timing. When is the right time? And a lot of people will rejoin. We always say, you can come back.
Right. And making them feel welcome if they decide to join back in the future. Do you have any marketing talent that reports to you?
I do. Yep. So I have one person that reports to me. I'm part of a team of 4.
So I'd love advice you have for managing marketing talent. What advice would you have? And then also working in collaboration with other departments as a marketer. What advice do you have in those 2 scenarios?
Sure. Yeah. So I think when it comes to managing is hard. And you think it's so easy when you're reporting to someone else, and then you become a manager. Right. You're oh, it's actually
now I see.
Now I see. I was my past manager, I was oh, it's so easy. He's so lucky to have me. And then I start managing someone else. I'm oh, this is all the things they don't tell you about. I think the biggest thing that's worked for me is I listen and realize not everyone is going to be managed the same way. Mm-hmm. And they're not going to tell you that you're not managing them correctly either. You have to listen for other things. You have to notice patterns of like, why is this happening this way? And kind of taking a step back and be like, it's not because they're not doing something right. So maybe they weren't given enough information. So I really like to step back. Something that's really effective for me is I keep a Google Doc of our meeting notes. I check in with my my direct reports once a week. We're super consistent with it. I write down everything and I set, what are your goals? What do we want to work on this week? What are our metrics that we can work on together? I like to
I interject and ask a question on that.
Sure.
Do you like holding people accountable?
I do like holding people accountable, but
Awesome.
I believe that I want them to know that these are their goals. Like that's kind of how I frame it. As I'm like, we sit down when something starts with me. I'm like, what are your goals? Like, yes, it's about working for this company, but like, what do you want out of this? Like, what are your hopes? And I'm like, what do you want like outside of the company? Like, what is that kind of stuff? What are you hoping to be in 5 years, 10 years? Sometimes people are a little hesitant. They're like, I don't want to say like, I don't want to be working here. I'm like, no, tell me you don't want to work here. Like, where do you want to be? Where do you want to be in 5 years, even if it's not here? So these are their goals. And I tell them like, I'm holding you accountable to your goals.
And that's a great outlook to have too, just in our workplace, 2 to 3 years as someone contributes amazing to the company, and you're supporting them in that next evolution. We're not really in that model of people work at the same company for 35 years and retire.
No, and I think like when you put it in that frame, they're happier. Like it's not, I don't want to like chain them to their desk to be like, this is what you must do. I'm like, you tell me how we can get there. I think one of like the good and bad things about marketing is there's like 10 different right pathways to get to the end goal. There's not necessarily like my way might be right, but so could yours. So I also want when someone reports to me, I want it to be really collaborative. I want like there to be feedback from them. I want to give them feedback, and I'm pretty honest with that. I'm like, and I asked them, I'm like, after they've been with me a while, like 6 months, I'm like, what could I do different? I'm like, how could you be managed different? Because like I said, it's collaborative. I want to help them get to their goals, but yeah, so I do hold them accountable. And sometimes they hold me accountable. So it's like a win, it works both ways on that. And but yeah, so I kind of do that check-in. Then we look at the next week. We're like, hey, did you get that? Oh, you didn't finish that. Like, let's figure out what we can do to get there. It's not about you did something wrong. It's like, what can we do to help you get there? It's not, you never want to be like, you did this wrong, or you did this like incorrectly, or it wasn't done on time. It's what weren't you given, or what was confusing about it that you couldn't get there, because we agreed on this as the goal. So there's that. I just want to, that's how I kind of do it. And then I also ask other people. I like ask HR, I keep them in the loop. I ask my manager, I'm like, this is this weird interaction. How do you perceive it? So that's how I manage my people.
What about collaboration in other departments?
Sure. Yeah. So Next Fab is interesting. We have a lot of different like creative minds. Like that's like the good, we're all makers ourselves. Like I'm an artist. I work with woodworkers, and our staff. So everyone has a lot of creative thoughts, which is great. It can be a lot of great collaboration. I kind of manage it the same way. I'm like, what do you need from me? Here's, I kind of very clear. I'm like, here's my goal for marketing. Here's what we need to do. With other departments like our education, so they run our classes, our like customer service. I'm like, this is what the goals are. What do you need from me? Like, how much time is that going to take? I need this much time for this project. I need this much time for this project. So if that doesn't reach my goals, like, is that where can we fit that in? So it's again, just about being upfront, I guess, a little bit more.
Yeah, let me ask you a specific question that I've heard from folks. So
Sure.
You're head of marketing, and then there's a CFO, and you're saying, I'm just going to make up this scenario. Like, I think we should run a Facebook advertising campaign because I think there's, this market, and this is what I think we can do. And we need a budget to test, which we know is going to take some time to figure out if there's even that product market fit. And the CFO is going, well, what's my ROI going to be in 30 days? And you're like, well, that's not really how marketing works. We need to test and see if there's something viable. What advice would you give to that marketer to have more enrolling conversations with maybe a CFO who doesn't get marketing, and they're thinking money in or money out, money needs to come in. If not, why am I even doing this?
That's like the age-old question. Like, how do I prove this like weird thing that you just have to trust me that I can predict the future and it's going to work out? Yeah, that's the that's the golden question. The way I've done it is and it depends like person to person. Like my direct, my manager is an engineer, so I know I like need to give him numbers. That's the only way it's going to work. So it's part of it's like knowing who your audience is. We're marketers, so like knowing who I'm trying to make this pitch to, and figuring out like, okay, what do you need to see to make this make sense to you? Sometimes it's the numbers, like with my manager right now. Sometimes it's the scenario, the narrative of like, this is what it looks like, this is how it's going to go into place. The thing that really works for me is this like painting the scenario. Mm-hmm. So I'll be like, this is the predicted number of impressions, this is the result it's going to get. This is the industry trend. For instance, like you said, Facebook, I'm gonna run this Facebook ad campaign, or this YouTube ad campaign, because I know the industry is telling me video right now is really big. And I can point to different examples to be like, it worked for them, which is similar to where we are, similar companies.
So it helps showing what your competitors are doing in that conversation.
Yep. So I'll say like, it worked really well for them because we are, even though they're a competitor, and we might be similar, I think this will work even better for us because we have X, Y, and Z. Mm-hmm. And I paint those scenarios for them, and I show them like, this is how much the budget's going to be. This is the timeline. This is where we're going to cut it off if it's like not being effective. And again, it's about building that trust with like, your management, with the CFO, with past campaigns. Sometimes it's harder when you're first starting. But again, that's when if I'm first starting, that's when I pull in from the industry trends. Mm-hmm. I need something to back me up.
So through this conversation, I've heard from you a handful of things of what makes a good marketer. Mm-hmm. And what I've heard, and I'm gonna want to hear your view on this. What I'm hearing is to be a good marketer, you need to be multidimensional. You need to be in tune with data. You need to be empathetic, good listening skills, being able to read the room. So it's not as one-dimensional as I'm running a Google ad campaign, and this is the data. This was the ad spend. This was my return on investment for you. So, mm-hmm. But I want to hear in your words, what do you think makes a good marketer?
Yeah, you kind of said it. I feel like empathy above anything else. It's like the toughest thing because you have your own experiences and you live this day in and out with this company you're in. Sometimes like where I'm at in Makerspace, I can actually go in and feel it out. Other places I've done fully digital products, so it's like not as easy to do it that way. But empathy and being wrong, being okay with being wrong. Like I said, there's like 10 different pathways to get to a successful campaign. So you have to be okay with other ideas, with other pathways, with it like not working out as well as you had hoped. I can't tell you how many times I've done even like a singular post or an ad. It's like, this is the coolest thing ever. And then like no one, it's like the least performing thing. And then like something like a t-shirt works or like a print campaign and it drives you nuts, but being wrong is okay. Because the whole point of marketing is you're testing, you're like, it's an immediate thing. So you're able to see it kind of almost in real time, whether something's working, what's not. And yeah, everything you mentioned before, like being on top of the industry trends of your particular industry, being on top of like the marketing trends, there's like 10,000 all the time. They're always changing. You're like, why, what happened? Can't we just stay in one spot? So it's kind of knowing everything and, moving with it.
I can share something to back you up on one of your points of view. Just don't know until you test. So we have a mm-hmm. client who's a very polished individual and speaker. So if she's putting out video content, it's, highly produced film, she looks really good in very, professional clothing. And the video that's performing best right now for her is actually, I can do kind of a still image before the video. Mm-hmm. It's her with like a weird looking face, like halfway through her speaking, in which she doesn't look professional in the least bit. And that's actually what's performing the best. And it's kind of blowing her mind right now that mm-hmm. after all these years, she let her guard down a little bit. And that's what's resonating the most with people.
And I think it goes back to that point of authenticity. Like people are really smart. Like they can tell right. when something is being marketed to them and they really don't like it. That's why things like, TikToks and videos, you really like the ones that work really well are the ones where it's just them talking. There's no like lighting setup. They can tell there's no like editing. Like it's just that really authentic experience. Mm-hmm.
What is a marketing opportunity that you're currently pursuing or want NextFab to pursue?
The one that like I'm looking at right now is podcasts. Funny
Mm.
enough.
You'd have an awesome podcast, just interviewing
I
your
know.
memberships or like how-tos. I don't want to speak for you, but I just got
Totally.
excited as you were chatting about that as we're on a podcast right now.
Yeah, it's fun. It's like a multi-dimensional. Yeah, so we're looking at that right now. That's something I just want to make sure it can like go integrate into our current campaigns. There's like so many cool things we could do at NextFab, and some of the mistakes we've made in the past are like, this is so cool, like everyone will love this, but then it costs a lot and doesn't get as much return. So we just want to be careful with that. But that's I'm super excited for. We had tried to do a podcast in the past, and it didn't work out quite as well as we wanted to, because I don't think we distributed it right. We didn't like connect it back to our missions and our values. And it was just a really cool thing, but like it didn't resonate with our customer because it was a little something, it just didn't work as well as we wanted. It wasn't distributed right, it wasn't marketed right. And you have to have that, you can have the coolest product in the world. If you don't market it right or at all, you can't, it won't work. So yeah, that's what, we have, like I mentioned, we have content up the wazoo. So those stories, again, we transition some of our webinar digital programming into this podcast. And my hope is actually to replace like our current blog with a podcast. And that way we can hit upon like things like SEO, organic traffic. We want to, again, and take on that success of the webinars and like some of the stuff that happened during the pandemic of, instead of bringing people to our location, how can we get into people's homes? And like a podcast would be amazing. And it would be a great referral tool. It would be great. Like it hits on a lot of like marketing channels that we already are successful on.
Are you doing much audio content at the moment, or is it more kind of static images, word, video based?
We're mostly doing static and video right now. We put together, every year we do a holiday gift guide. We have a lot of makers that sell products. We put together a really cool handmade gift guide. And the one thing we really wanted to add this year was their story behind that handmade product. So we did a bunch of video interviews as part of our holiday campaign, which is funny to mention it now, but we started our holiday campaign in July and finish up at the end of September. So we did a bunch of video interviews. Some, we really want to be on YouTube. We want to be everywhere. So that's, we're working on those, and I think that would transition really well to some primarily audio content.
Amazing. Tell us about a marketing fail you've experienced in your career, and in hindsight, what did you learn from that experience?
Sure. One that comes to mind is, I will say, double check everything, proofread everything, and just as a preamble to the story. But we opened up a new makerspace location back in March of 2020, and we had been working on it. We did a bunch of like, when you open up a new location or a new place, you like do this whole big grand opening campaigns. You're like getting people really jazzed about it. We opened up a huge location. And so we obviously ran a bunch of ad campaigns. We ran a bunch of like social media things. We were very excited. So we ran one, and we actually ended up, the URL link for a Facebook ad campaign we used was broken, and we didn't test it beforehand. We didn't double check it. And we even had our customers saying like, hey, I think they think, it's because it was a redirect. We didn't think about, just one of those things that worked for us. But once it was in a Facebook ad campaign, because it was a redirect, it comes up through Facebook as a broken link. Even if you use it as weird semantics, but because it was redirecting so much, it comes up as broken. We spent about $1,000 on that campaign before we realized that the link was broken. It was taking them to our website, but not to the place we needed it to be. So I will say, in hindsight, make sure you double check. We were working with a company at the time, a marketing company. So again, trust and like check. So as much as like you can trust your company to do that, make sure like you're still on the ground floor, double checking those. Facebook has great, where you can test things out before you launch a campaign. So that's with everything, double check.
I'd love to ask you this question. So my opinion is, if you've been in digital marketing long enough, you've had a broken link somewhere. It just happens. How do you then have that tough conversation with who you report to, the CFO of, they're probably going to say, you just lost me $1,000, but in your mind, it's just like, I don't know, I put a O instead of a 0 and it broke. So how do you have those conversations with someone when you have that broken link and it might have lost the company some money unintentionally?
I think you just the worst thing you could do is not mention it and just kind of be like, well, let me just let this slide. Maybe they
I
won't
hope they don't
notice.
see it. Yeah.
Yeah. I think get upfront about it. I think for me, that speaks volumes when someone is upfront, like someone that reports to me, someone that's on my team, they're like, this is what happened. It was my mistake. Like, own it and be like, this is what happened. Like, it was broken. I didn't double check it. I'll never make that mistake again. And without, using these words, would be like, this is how it is. Let's make sure it never happens again. Let's set up a process and documentation in place. That way, even if I'm not the one checking the ads, I like have a document I can hand to like someone that reports to me, like, hey, this is the process we go through. We check those links, we double check them. And so making sure that training is in place as well. And I think you're just upfront with it. They can get mad and like be like, I'll never let it happen again, and just let it happen. Just let them be mad, let them yell at you if that's the kind of manager you have. And yeah, make sure make sure you have that dialogue more than anything. And it's scary. You don't want to do it.
Totally. Let's hear on the flip side. Tell us about a marketing campaign you've worked on that you're really proud of.
Sure. I have a lot that I really like. I get a lot of creative.
This is a moment to brag on yourself. So whatever.
I know. I'm trying to think of a good one. I have to say, like, our holiday gift guide. When I first started, it was like an idea, and like people had it was like a blog post, and that was it. So, and again, the gift guide is like, we take our like makers that make handmade products, we feature them in this like magazine pamphlet thing, and we distribute it. So over the years, it just keep getting bigger and bigger. So this year, which I said we just finished up, I'm super excited because we did like a whole blown like photo shoot for our makers. We were photographing them in like our shops. We were like, we are partnering this year with some local organizations that are actually placing ads into our gift guide. So actually will help offset the marketing costs of it. So actually about half that campaign will be funded through ad costs, which is super exciting. And then you get to see it like blossom. We do like a big PR campaign. We do a big social media campaign. So we have our local stations that come out, film, get to actually see the spaces. And the coolest part that I really like is I track it all through our CRM, and I get to see how much return it is. And it's 3 to 4 times what we paid for it. So it's really cool to see that like, this is everything. Like, it takes a lot of effort of like getting all those tiny pieces of the photo shoot and the right language and like the pitch we're trying to make for Next Fab, to this really like heartwarming campaign of buying local, buying handmade, and you get to see it too. Like you feel like you're making an impact by saying like, buy from this local market rather than Amazon. So it's cool to hear people talk about it. People ask me about it, like, when is that coming out? I was like, I don't know, it's always a lot of work and I love doing it, but yeah, that one's really successful. We had switched our brand from like kind of a tech audience to more of an artisan. So I feel like that's made a huge impact in saying like, this is who we are in Philly, and this is who we are like even outside of Philly. So getting to do that campaign is super rewarding for me, and for our small businesses.
Awesome. So my last question today is, what is the best purchase you've made personally or professionally for under $100 in the last 6 months, and why?
Sure. So this one I haven't actually made yet. I'm going to like kind of I'm about to purchase it. I know it's going to be the best purchase of the year. So I'm just going to use this one. So like you had kind of asked about this before, about creating this community. We already have it at Next Step, but how do we make it more of a digital community? So we have this hashtag, people tag us on it. We're going to buy a ring light and a pedestal in the next couple of months and set up a station at Next Fab where people actually can photograph their products, and really nice light and really nice. And we're going to put a little backdrop on it that says like hashtag Next Fab made, or I made this at Next Fab. And we're actually giving the opportunity to like take their picture and then post that on Instagram. And again, I feel like it's one of those purchases that I'm like, I'm going to be mad because it's going to work so well. I just feel it. We spend no money on it, but we're trying to create that digital community and give people a little bit more, maybe our older audiences, a chance to like photograph it and post on Instagram, post on social media.
I'll love that. And I'll just leave you with this and kind of going back to the whole toddler liking the box. So my sister is works in digital marketing for the Steelers. And one of their most popular pieces of content during training camp was that they would post a question in a little video camera above it and just film the players walking through it each day, answering the question.
Great.
That was some of the most popular content they put out in training camp. And, they have the videographers, photographers on the field, and then just asking a dumb question as they pass through the bathroom. Like, that's what some of the most popular content was.
I know. And it's like, you love it and you're like, should I try and like not try now? Like,
right.
Should I just not try anymore? And that's what's going to work.
So Rebecca, it was great speaking with you today. Thank you so much for your time and your wisdom.
Well, thank you for having me.